Hello everyone, welcome back once again to Helldivers 2. A few months ago, when Helldivers 2 was still a wee baby of a game, my partners in crime and I put together our own list of 10 things we wish we'd known about Helldivers 2, in response to the many lists that we had seen at the time which had clearly been written by people who'd never played the game. Since then, some of our points have become void due to patches and updates, while others had information omitted at the time due to inconsistencies with the state of the game. So it's been suggested that I should revisit our list and update it for the current state of the game. Thus do I present our updated list of 10 things we wish we'd known when we started playing Helldivers 2. Number 1. Weapon sound profile is apparently a thing. Big shout out to Plantero at Plantero Beats on YouTube, whose channel you'll find linked in the card above and in the description below. In my 10 things we'd like to see in the future video, I mentioned that we'd really like decoy grenades to lure enemies out of position for various reasons. Enter Plantero, with the bomb that we already have a way to do that. To be fair, Skelly HD also mentioned this, but Plantero got there first. Apparently, weapons in Helldivers 2 have sound profiles, some louder than others, some quieter than others, and some whisper quiet. Not many people like the democratic detonation crossbow, especially after it got nerfed, but they might now. The crossbow and the grenade pistol have a non-existent sound profile. So when fired from a concealed position and away from enemies, instead of charging at you, the enemies will go and investigate the explosion. This tactic also works with the grenade launcher, though I suspect, and Plantero agreed, the grenade launcher likely has a slightly louder sound profile than the crossbow and the grenade pistol, so it may need to be a little bit farther away to avoid detection. I don't know about the rest of you, but this is the kind of shit that should be on the Brash Tactics video on the ship's flat screen. Number 2. Weapons and stratagems. Some weapons are good, some are meh, and very few are awesome. But whatever you're running, odds are stratagems are better, and that's by design. When it's time to fight, pulling the trigger shouldn't be your first impulse. A well-placed stratagem can often wipe out the enemy far better than your weapons ever could. Your gun is for cleanup or when you have no stratagems available. And this is important to keep in mind because you want to end fights quickly and efficiently. In a prolonged fight, enemies will often call for backup, and this will only get worse the longer the fight lasts. Number 3. Fight or flight. The best way to avoid those long fights is to just avoid the fight entirely. Killing enemies doesn't net more XP in a mission. In fact, it doesn't really do much at all. More often than not, especially on higher difficulties, the best strategy is to just avoid the enemy, not engage them. As you're running around the map to do your objectives, you'll come across enemy patrols here and there. Most of these can be bypassed until the objective is complete. Or, if you're experimenting with the first point in this video and toying with weapon sound profiles, these roamers can also be temporarily diverted to buy time for objective completion. So if you're not scouring the map for every possible resource, you can skip a lot of enemies outright, hit your objectives, and just beeline it to extraction. The only time you should be fighting is to clear out an objective area or when something goes wrong and there's no other option. Number 4. Extraction delay. Objectives are done, evac shuttle's been called, and once again, Captain Looks for Everything is still across the damn map, and this time he's carrying all the samples. Not to worry. Just because extraction's been triggered doesn't mean the mission is about to end. From here, there are 2 options. Number 1, once the shuttle lands, it's not going to go anywhere until someone gets on it. And at that point, there's still a 20-second window before takeoff, provided that the ship hasn't taken any substantial damage, in which case it skedaddles as soon as anyone gets on it. But as long as no one gets on it, it'll sit there indefinitely. Option 2, which is arguably the better option, though it's a little more difficult to pull off, especially if multiple players are already on extraction. Once the timer to call the evac shuttle expires, if the squad leaves extraction when the timer expires, but before the evac shuttle touches down, the pilot will state that there are no Helldivers on extraction and they're going to stay in the air until someone reaches the extraction radius. This leaves the evac shuttle in the air bombarding enemies all over until someone gets too close to extraction, at which point the shuttle lands. Number 5. Fast travel. Still unofficially, of course. Spreading out to cover multiple areas and objectives at once is often a better tactic than sticking together. What's that? Captain Looks for Everything has found another bunker across the map that requires 2 players to access. Well, Timmy, let's have another look at that grenade. Killing a player purposefully to be reinforced across the map can be a very useful tool, be it to help a squad mate knock out an objective, access a cache, or just get someone to extraction quickly. Number 6. Previously numbers 6 and 7. Farming and consolidating samples. Samples are used to upgrade your ship, and thereby enhance your stratagems in various ways. There are 3 types of samples: common, rare, and super. Common samples are available on all difficulties, while rare and super are difficulty locked, with rare appearing only on challenging and above, and super only spawning on the top 3 difficulties: suicide mission, impossible, and hell dive. Common and rare samples can be found all over the map at or around various points of interest. But super samples always spawn grouped in a localized area around a very distinct landmark. That rock right there. Samples are the only currency in the game that can only be found while on mission and can be lost after obtaining them. If you die while carrying samples, they get dropped and have to be retrieved before extraction, or you lose them. A good rule of thumb is to consolidate your samples onto a single player. Samples are contained within a single drop after pickup, so having one person hold everything means that if the team suffers a setback or two, there's only one vial to pick up rather than several all over the map. To do this, at any point during the mission, a player can purposefully drop samples or backpack or support weapon, whatever they might be carrying, by holding the down arrow, which brings up a radio menu. You highlight what you want to drop and then you release the arrow and it drops to the ground. Another option that we tested out back in those early days was dropping samples on extraction during the mission, and then leaving them there to be picked up during extraction. But back then this was problematic, as more than once the samples that were dropped at extraction would randomly teleport themselves to the middle of the map. Was it magic? A glitch? Or maybe just the Illuminates flexing? Whatever the case, the issue seems to have been sorted, so sample drops on extraction are a solid go-to. If possible, take the time to pick up any other dropped samples before you drop yours so that everything is once again consolidated in a single vial. Number 7. Currency caps. There are 4 types of currency in Helldivers 2. Requisition slips or credits for stratagems, super credits for in-game store purchases, medals for war bonds, and samples for ship upgrades to enhance your stratagems. Currently, requisition credits cap at 50,000. War bond medals cap at 250. Samples cap at 500, 250, and 100 respectively from common to super. So if you haven't purchased everything there is to purchase, make sure you're keeping an eye on how close you are to those caps and make sure you spend whatever you need to avoid hitting them so you don't lose future rewards. Number 8. Backpacks. There are several different backpack stratagems available in Helldivers 2. You can only wear one at any given time, and they have a fairly long refresh timer before you can call in another one. That being said, a good rule of thumb is for everyone to wear a backpack as much as possible. And there's a lot to choose from. The fan favorites are definitely the personal shield generator, or the rovers. There's also a support pack that allows a wearer to act as a portable resupply station for their squad mates, and a physical riot shield that can be used in conjunction with a pistol or a submachine gun. But for my money, I don't go anywhere without my jump pack. In my mind, the only thing better is the dark fluid backpack from the Everlasting Peace Order. So if anyone happens to know a guy who knows a guy who hypothetically saw something fall off a dropship, no questions will be asked if one of those happens to find its way under the tree this Christmas. Number 9. Drop pods or weapons too. That trophy everyone was talking about in the early days, where you have to kill a charger with an incoming resupply pod, well, it's still pretty easy to accomplish. And it's still a strategy favored by linguists. With a little practice, it's not hard to get your stratagem beacons to stick to enemies, so your incoming turret can now kill that charger or a bile titan or destroy a bug hole or a bot factory on its way in and then pop up and start mowing stuff down. Originally, this could also be done with the reinforcement drop pods as well, but as the iterations of Helldivers 2 have moved along, damage from reinforcement pods has become more and more inconsistent, at least in regard to them hitting enemies on landing. That being said, it still works on occasion, and when it does, it's pretty cool. So when you're in a fight, don't always look for a safe place to drop something. Be strategic about it. Think about where it's going to do the most damage. That'll work.
That was a good clip.
Number 10. For anyone that hasn't taken a walk through the possibilities of Helldiver 2's customizable button mapping, and maybe even for some of those that have, allow me to sing the praises of the quick grenade. By default, players have to press the right arrow to equip grenades, which can then be thrown with the trigger until they manually switch back to their firearm. The quick grenade is a single button press that throws one grenade and immediately goes back to the firearm. In a pinch, this is significantly faster than using the default grenade setup. And by pressing the quick grenade button repeatedly, you can spam throw grenades damn near as fast as you can at the default mode. As soon as I found the option, I switched over and I never looked back, and most, if not everyone I play with, did the same as word got around. To enable quick grenades, press the Options button on the controller. The third tab over is also Options. Now go down to the bottom of that list there and click on Controller. Next, click on Change Bindings at the very top. Controller mapping is broken into 3 categories. You want to go into Combat. Quick Grenade is the 8th option from the top. By default, it's unmapped. I recommend just swapping it for the normal grenade position, but if you don't mind losing the ability to use emotes during combat, you could also map the quick grenade to your left arrow. If you're going with replacing the normal grenade function like I did, you have 2 steps which can be done in any order. You need to go to grenade and push triangle, which clears the right arrow function. And you need to go to quick grenade, push X, and then push the right or left arrow depending on how you want it set up. That's it. You now have quick grenades. Side note, quick grenade can still cook grenades if necessary just by holding the right arrow for a few moments before release. Number 11. Once again, a bonus if you will. There is still no PvP in this game. Okay.
Right? Oh, gotcha.
Holy shit, some of these assault rifles are actually good for something.